My name is Candace Porter. I'm 34 years old and I work as a software engineer in Milwaukee. I pushed myself nonstop to build stability and a career I thought would finally make my family proud. But during one family dinner in Fargo, everything shattered. My mom slammed her fork on the table and snapped, "You only sent $20. Everyone's eyes locked on me with judgment as if I had betrayed them. He kept going. "Your sister wires $4,000 every month." I whispered, "That was actually me." The room went silent. My father's face turned crimson as he barked, "Don't you dare steal her credit." My brother gave a smug grin, nodding like I had lied. I sat there in silence, humiliated, chest burning with both rage and heartbreak, knowing this moment would change everything between me and them. If you were in my shoes, would you stay quiet and endure it or finally flip the script? Tell me in the comments. Growing up in Fargo, North Dakota, I learned quickly that fairness had no place in my home. I spent weeks preparing for the science fair, building a volcano that actually erupted. I thought it would finally be my chance to shine. But the night before, Chelsea begged to go to the amusement park. My parents dropped everything my project included just to take her. I stayed home alone, piecing together my poster boards while she came back laughing with cotton candy and a stuffed toy. My volcano earned second place, but when I showed Dad the ribbon, he just nodded and immediately asked Chelsea about her day instead. Moments like that kept happening. Once Chelsea knocked over Mom's favorite vase while running after her doll. I was quietly reading in the corner, nowhere near it. But when Mom stormed in, Chelsea pointed at me and cried, "Candace did it." I tried to defend myself, but Mom cut me off. "You're older. You should know better." I spent the afternoon scrubbing floors, grounded for a week, while Chelsea got ice cream to cheer her up. Dad never questioned it, only patting her head and calling her Chels. Seth, my older brother, was no different. He was the golden child every time he came home from Texas. I had worked hard in math club and earned a spot in the regional finals. That very same weekend, Seth scored a touchdown in a football game. My parents threw a backyard barbecue, invited the neighbors, and bragged endlessly about his win. My competition was forgotten. I walked home with my third-place certificate, listening to the laughter spilling out of our yard. When I brought it up, Dad shrugged. "Football's a big deal, Candace. You'll get another shot." But I didn't want another shot. I just wanted them to see me. Chelsea always came first. I once saved all my allowance to buy a sketchbook so I could draw the prairie sunsets I loved. Chelsea saw it and demanded one too. Mom didn't hesitate. "Share with your sister." She scribbled all over my pages, ruining my drawings. When I complained, Dad sighed, "Don't be selfish, Candace." I hid my next sketchbook under my bed, but the sting stayed. I built a birdhouse for a school project, planning to enter it in a craft fair. But Seth showed up with his new Letterman jacket, and Mom and Dad spent the evening praising his bright future. My birdhouse sat forgotten in the garage. It was our neighbor, Mrs. Betty Cole, who noticed it and helped me paint it. My parents never even asked about it. At dinner, Mom just smiled at Seth and said, "He's going places." The worst was when I was 12. I had practiced for months to recite a poem at the school talent show, memorizing every single line. I begged Mom and Dad to be there. But Chelsea caught a cold the day before and they stayed home to fuss over her instead. I performed in front of a half-empty auditorium, my voice shaking. Mrs. Cole clapped loudly from the back row, but it wasn't the same. When I got home, Mom was tucking Chelsea into bed with hot cocoa. "You'll do better next time," she said without even looking at me. Those years taught me one thing. I would always be expected to step aside. Chelsea's demands, Seth's spotlight, my parents' excuses. Layer by layer, they built a wall I could never climb. And as I grew older, that pain hardened into something heavier. Doubt. At 14, I found escape in computers. I spent hours in the school lab teaching myself to code. I built a simple website for our book club, hoping it might finally earn me a place. One evening, I showed Mom the site, my hands trembling with excitement. She glanced at it, then handed me a stack of dishes. "That's nice, Candace, but go help with chores." Dad sat in the living room, eyes glued to the TV, not even looking up. My pride deflated and I wondered why my efforts never mattered. School became my refuge. I joined the robotics team, staying late to tinker with circuits and code for our robot. It wasn't about winning, it was about belonging. But Chelsea, then 11, still found ways to drag me down. She spread a rumor at her school that I had failed a math test I'd actually aced. Kids laughed in the hall, whispering that I wasn't as smart as I looked. When I confronted her at home, voice trembling, she just smirked. It was a joke, Candace. Mom overheard but only sighed. Don't make a fuss. Chelsea didn't mean it. The dismissal cut deeper than the rumor. At 16, I started a secret blog, pouring my feelings into anonymous posts about being invisible. Writing became my safe space, a way to untangle the knots inside me. One post went viral in our small community, shared by classmates who had no idea it was mine. For once I felt seen. But Chelsea, 13 at the time, discovered it and left a mocking comment. So whiny. Soon classmates piled on with cruel remarks. That night I deleted the blog, hands shaking. Mom saw me crying but only said, "Don't take things so seriously." Dad never noticed, he was too busy fixing Chelsea's bike. At 17 I was accepted into a regional coding competition. I practiced for weeks, debugging until my eyes burned. But Seth, now 19, came home for spring break, filling dinner with stories about college in Texas. Mom and Dad laughed at everything he said. I mentioned my competition but Seth waved me off. "Coding's cool, Candace, but relax a bit." He didn't even look at me. Mom nodded in agreement and turned right back to him. I sat quietly, fork heavy in my hand, feeling like a stranger in my own house. At 18 I led a team at a school hackathon, building an app for local charities. We won first place and pride swelled inside me. I thought, maybe this time they'll notice. I invited Mom and Dad to the ceremony, hoping desperately they'd come. They didn't. Chelsea had a school dance that night and they chose to be there instead. Mrs. Cole drove me home praising my work. But when I walked into an empty house, the trophy felt meaningless. That night, lying awake, I asked myself if I would ever be enough. When I got to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, I carried one quiet resolve: to build a life on my own terms. I moved into a tiny dorm room, my suitcase packed with secondhand clothes and a laptop I had saved for Fargo, and its heavy memories felt far away, but loneliness crept in fast. To pay tuition and rent, I juggled 2 jobs, working IT support at the university during the day and waitressing at a diner by night. My life became a blur of coding classes and serving late-night study groups. Sleep was rare and my room felt emptier each night. I skipped going home for Thanksgiving that first year. Mom called asking why I wasn't coming. "I need to study," I told her, my voice steady but empty. The truth was, I couldn't handle another holiday of being invisible. Instead, I sat in the library debugging code under the buzz of fluorescent lights, eating instant noodles alone while classmates headed home to family dinners. At 19, the grind only grew heavier. The IT job left me troubleshooting nonstop while diner shifts left my feet aching and apron-stained. I'd collapse into bed at 2 a.m., textbooks unopened, only to wake again at 6 for class. One night, a diner customer left me a $10 tip with a note. "Keep going, kid." It was the first time in months anyone had noticed me. I tucked the note into my wallet like a lifeline. But the loneliness stayed, reminding me I was building this life completely on my own. In sophomore year, I met Dr. Pamela Reed, my computer science professor. She noticed me dozing in lectures and called me into her office. I braced for a scolding, but instead she asked about my schedule. I admitted I was barely keeping up, working 2 jobs. Her eyes softened and she offered me a paid internship in her lab, coding for a data analytics project. "You've got talent, Candace," she said, voice firm but kind. "Don't waste it." The internship paid more than the diner, allowing me to quit waitressing and finally focus on school. For the first time, someone believed in me. Dr. Reed became more than a professor, she became a mentor. She invited me for coffee, asked about my goals, and celebrated my wins in a way my parents never had. When I aced a tough algorithms exam, she encouraged me to apply for a scholarship to present at a tech conference. I hesitated, doubting myself, but she pushed me. I got in. At 20, I stood before a room full of professionals, presenting my project. Dr. Reed clapped the loudest in the back. Her support felt like the family I'd never known. But the ache of Fargo never fully left. I skipped Christmas that year, telling Dad I had a project deadline. The truth was, the silence on our calls, the distracted replies from Mom, Chelsea's chatter filling the space, was worse than being alone. I stopped expecting them to care about my life. Instead, I buried myself in code, building apps late at night to drown the emptiness of my dorm. One evening, I overheard classmates planning a trip together. Their laughter rang in the halls. I wasn't invited. The sting hit hard, echoing the years I'd been invisible at home. By senior year, I had saved enough to move into a small apartment off campus. A step toward independence. Late at night when I studied alone, the silence felt heavy. I'd scroll through old pictures, seeing Chelsea's glowing smile at family gatherings I'd missed, and wonder if I had pulled myself too far away. Dr. Reed noticed the weight in my eyes during one of our talks and shared how she too had left home young. "You're stronger than you think," she told me. Her words became a quiet anchor. I held on to them, pushing myself through finals until I graduated with honors at 22. When graduation ended, I packed my bags with pride mixed with loneliness. I was eager to face the world but unsure if anyone would care. In Milwaukee, I started at a tech startup as a software engineer, pouring my energy into a healthcare app that could change lives. My small apartment overlooking Lake Michigan became my haven, a place to work hard and hide from the shadows of Fargo. I gave everything to projects, earning respect from coworkers who depended on my problem-solving skills. Still, the pull of home never faded. One evening, Mom called, her voice tired as she described Dad's worsening diabetes and her own back problems that had forced her into early retirement. The medical bills were crushing, though she never directly asked for help. I couldn't stand by. Quietly, I arranged financial support so they'd never know it was me. It meant cutting corners on my own life, fewer outings, simpler meals, but it felt like my responsibility even if no one noticed. At work, I led a team that improved patient data systems, often staying late to perfect the code. My boss praised my commitment and colleagues leaned on me for guidance. But whenever I called home, Mom's updates were brief, centered on Dad's treatments or Chelsea's newest art show. She never asked about my life. I'd sit on the balcony afterward, phone still warm in my hand, staring at the restless waves of Lake Michigan, wondering why my efforts never seemed to matter. As time passed, I stretched myself thinner just to keep their support going. I'd watch my bank balance shrink with every payment, a private weight only I carried. One night, I overheard Mom thanking a kind stranger for helping them through. My chest sank. They didn't know it was me and I couldn't bring myself to confess. Then came an invitation to a family dinner in Fargo, a chance to finally face them. When I walked into our old house, the smell of Mom's pot roast filled the air, the dining room warm under its soft glow. Mom, Dad, Chelsea, and Seth sat at the table, silverware clinking against plates. My chest tightened as I took my seat, knowing this was my moment. Partway through dinner, Mom set down her fork and narrowed her eyes. "Candace, you sent us $20 for our anniversary. Is that really all you could manage?" My hand froze midair. Before I could answer, Dad leaned forward. "We've been getting $4,000 a month for the medical bills. Who's been sending it? We thought it was some kind stranger." My throat closed. That money had been me all along. Seth sipped his wine, glancing at Chelsea. "Didn't you land a big hotel design contract, Chels? Maybe you're the one helping out." Chelsea paused, then gave a small smile. "Could be," she murmured, not denying it. My stomach twisted. She was letting them believe it. I gripped the table, the truth burning inside, but stayed silent to avoid a fight. Mom's face lit up, turning to Chelsea. "Chels, is it really you sending $4,000 every month? Your design work must be thriving." Chelsea nodded slightly, her eyes flicking toward me for a second before looking away. Their praise echoed around me, every word like a blade. I had sacrificed vacations, eaten cheap meals, and poured myself dry to keep that support alive. And now they were crediting her. My chest burned, but I bit back the words, afraid of breaking their illusion. Dad reached for Chelsea's hand. "You're a blessing, Chels. That money has kept us alive, through my diabetes and your mom's back pain." My hands shook beneath the table. I wanted to scream that it was me, that I had been the one keeping them afloat. But the fear of their disbelief pinned me silent. Chelsea accepted their gratitude with a faint smile, her quietness cutting deeper than any insult. I finally tried to speak, my voice trembling. "What if it's not Chelsea?" I asked carefully. Seth chuckled and waved me off. "Come on, Candace. You're doing fine in Milwaukee, but Chelsea's the one with the big contracts." Heat rushed to my face at his dismissal. I looked at Chelsea, silently begging her to tell the truth. But she only stirred her food, refusing to meet my eyes. The realization struck deep. She was letting this happen, maybe even taking pleasure in it. My chest tightened, the weight of being erased crushing me. My breath hitched, years of sacrifice flashing through my mind. I leaned in, my voice barely audible. "That was me." The truth slipped out. Dad's expression darkened, his palms slamming against the table. Stop stealing her credit. His words cut like a blade. Chelsea flinched but stayed quiet, her silence louder than any accusation. I sank into my chair, eyes burning as the room blurred. I had given everything to them, yet all they saw was Chelsea. I wanted to list every transfer, every sacrifice I'd made, but their faces showed they'd never believe me. I forced a nod, lips pressed tight, unwilling to break the family apart. The sting of being invisible consumed me heavier than ever. I tried to redirect, asking Chelsea about her latest project. How's the cafe redesign coming along? My voice was flat. She shrugged, speaking vaguely about a sketch. Her words faded away. I stared at my plate, the warmth of dinner turning cold. Seth pulled out his phone, showing Mom Chelsea's portfolio, their admiration filling the room. My hands curled into fists, the urge to speak the truth battling the fear of rejection. When dinner ended, I gathered the plates in silence, suffocated by their blindness. I wondered how long I could carry this secret alone. The bitter taste of the night lingered as I packed my bag, Mom's accusations and Dad's shouts echoing in my head. Standing in my old bedroom, walls still lined with fading posters, I made a choice. I couldn't keep giving myself to a family who refused to see me. That night, trembling, I logged into my bank account and stopped the monthly transfer of $4,000. The confirmation appeared on the screen, and a strange mix of relief and sorrow washed over me. I was finished carrying their weight in silence. Before sunrise, I drove back to Milwaukee. The highway stretched out ahead like my resolve. Fargo's lights disappeared in my rearview mirror, along with the ties I had held onto for so long. Back in my apartment, I shut off my phone, ignoring Mom's usual updates about Chelsea's designs or Seth's visits. Cutting contact felt like taking off a heavy coat. I needed space to breathe, to find out who I was without their expectations. The silence gave me freedom, though it hurt like a bruise I couldn't stop pressing. Days slipped by, and though I felt lighter without the transfers, guilt gnawed at me. I imagined my parents struggling with bills, wondering why the money had stopped. My heart twisted, but I couldn't go back. Not after they gave Chelsea credit for what I had done. I wandered my apartment, the view of Lake Michigan no longer bringing peace, the weight of my decision settling in. I had given everything only to be dismissed. The truth cut deep, but the release was stronger. I needed someone who would hear me without judgment. Aaron Morgan, my friend from the startup, had always been that person. We had bonded over late-night coding, his dry humor easing the stress. My voice shook as I called him, asking to meet at a downtown cafe. Sitting across from him, the hum of the place grounding me, I spilled it all. They thought Chelsea was sending the money. I whispered, hands clutching my mug. I told them it was me, but Dad accused me of stealing her credit. Aaron listened quietly, his gaze steady as I unraveled years of pain. Finally, he leaned forward, his voice calm. You've been carrying them alone, Candace. It's okay to put yourself first now. His words felt like a lifeline, pulling me back from guilt. I nodded, tears burning my eyes, finally feeling seen. He didn't urge me to fix it or call home. Instead, he shared his own story, how he had learned to set boundaries with his family. It wasn't an answer, but it was comfort, a reminder I wasn't alone. A month later, in my Milwaukee apartment, my phone buzzed, shattering weeks of silence. Mom's name glowed on the screen and my stomach tightened. I answered, bracing myself. Her voice was sharp. Candace, the money stopped. $4,000 every month gone. Do you know anything about this? My pulse quickened, the weight of my choice slamming back into me. I inhaled slowly, steadying my voice. I was the one sending it, I said quietly. I stopped because no one believed me that night at dinner. Silence stretched across the line. Then Mom's voice turned cold. Don't start that again, Candace. These stories aren't helping. Their disbelief hit me harder than I expected, squeezing my chest. After years of paying their medical bills, they still viewed me as the needy daughter chasing attention. Before I could speak, Seth's voice cut in, his connection crackling. I'm here, Mom, he said, his face appearing on my phone screen, his eyes narrowing in my direction. Candace, why are you stirring this up? Chelsea's the one who's been supporting them. She's got her big design job. My jaw locked. His words replayed the sting of that dinner. I glared at his image, his certainty stoking my anger. It wasn't Chelsea, Seth, I said, my voice sharper now. I sent that money every single month from my savings. Mom scoffed, her tone slicing in. Chelsea's always been successful, Candace. She doesn't need to lie. Her dismissal landed like a wall I couldn't climb. Desperate, I grabbed my laptop, pulling up years of bank statements, every transfer labeled family support $4,000 each month from my account. My hands shook as I screenshotted them, then emailed the files to Mom. "Check your inbox," I whispered, my throat tight. "That's the proof. It's always been me." The silence that followed dragged out, suffocating. Finally, Dad spoke, his voice rough. "I don't understand, Candace. Why hide it? Feels like you're just trying to make Chelsea look bad." Their words stung worse than shouting. I'd cut back on everything, my own life, my own needs, to keep them afloat. And still they accused me of sabotage. I looked at Seth, hoping for a flicker of doubt, but he shook his head firmly. "Chelsea would never let us believe a lie," he said. "You're just jealous." The urge to scream surged inside me, but their voices overlapped, shutting me down. Mom's tone grew sharper. "Candace, enough. You're embarrassing yourself trying to steal her credit." That word, steal, hit like a slap. I leaned back, my breath shallow. The truth settled in. They'd never believe me. Chelsea wasn't even on the call, and yet her shadow towered over me. Did she know? Was her silence deliberate or just convenient ignorance? I tried one last time, my voice breaking. "Look at the dates. The amounts. It's right there." But Seth cut me off. "Enough, Candace. Chelsea has been our rock. Let it go." My hands trembled, the phone burning hot against my ear. The family I'd given everything for chose a lie over me. The betrayal cut deeper than I could bear. Proof meant nothing to them. With shaking fingers I ended the call, the screen going black. My apartment suddenly felt too small, its walls closing in. I'd poured my time, my money, my love into them, only to be painted as envious. The pain burned in my chest, raw, but beneath it something hardened. I was done begging for acknowledgement. I sat at my desk, the bank statement still glowing on my screen, the rejection weighing on me. I thought of Aaron, how he'd listened without judgment, but even his kindness couldn't soothe this wound. I turned to the window, Lake Michigan stretching gray and endless, and realized I'd wasted years tying my worth to their approval. They would never see me for who I was. The choice was forming, steady and unshakable. I had to let go. Months later I was still patching myself together. The rejection still stung, but the pain was dulling. Then a notification lit my phone, from a Fargo community group. Chelsea was selling her designer furniture. Curiosity tugged at me and I clicked. Her prized coffee table. Her vintage lamp. Even her drafting desk. The comments were blunt. "Chelsea's in debt." My heart sank. Not with pity, but with the weight of what stopping the $4,000 had done. I scrolled, finding Chelsea's own post. "Times are tough. Need to downsize," she wrote. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just silence. She'd let them believe the lie all along, nodding vaguely as Seth praised her, letting the family crown her their savior. Now, without my money, her perfect image was cracking. I pictured her boxing up her treasures, her pride chipped away with every listing. But instead of satisfaction, I felt only an empty ache. Through a mutual friend, I learned the truth. Chelsea had been drowning in loans, credit cards, a car payment, even a failed boutique project, counting on the transfers to keep her afloat. When they stopped, everything collapsed. Her so-called business was hanging by a thread. And Seth? His fall was worse. He doubled down after the call, loudly insisting Chelsea was the family's rock. But then the bank handling Mom and Dad's overdue bills sent him records. My records, showing my name, my account, years of consistent transfers. The truth was undeniable. His reputation took a hit. Friends whispered about how blind he'd been. He stopped posting about family, retreating into silence. Mom and Dad bore the hardest blow. With no monthly support, medical bills piled up. Dad's insulin, Mom's therapy. I spotted their Fargo house listed for sale, described blandly as 3-bedroom, needs repairs, price to sell. I pictured Mom packing her blue plates, Dad sifting through his tools, both moving slowly under the weight of it all. A neighbor's post mentioned Dad taking a part-time job at a hardware store, despite his health, while Mom cut back on groceries. I stared out at the gray skyline from my Milwaukee window, guilt twisting inside me. I hadn't regretted cutting them off. It was the only way to reclaim myself, but the fallout was heavier than I imagined. Still, their rejection haunted me. They'd chosen Chelsea even with proof in front of them, labeling me jealous. so I stayed silent. I poured myself into work. Late nights on a new tech project, long runs by the lake, little victories that reminded me I was building a life on my own. Then one night I saw her email buried in my inbox. "Can we talk?" That was all Chelsea wrote. No explanation. No apology. I hovered over the reply button, part of me aching to hear her out, to see if she'd finally admit the truth. But the stronger part knew better. Too little too late. I archived the message, unwilling to reopen the wound. Their consequences were theirs to carry, just as my choice was mine. I thought of their lives unraveling. Chelsea boxing up her pride, Seth shrinking into... And eventually I stopped checking for messages, stopped wondering about Fargo's gossip. For once my story belonged to me. Their struggles were no longer mine to carry. I met Dylan Brooks at a tech conference, his warm smile and sharp wit breaking through the walls I'd built around myself. He worked as a data analyst, deeply invested in using technology for positive change, and our talks drifted easily from coding to life dreams over endless cups of coffee. One evening as we walked by Lake Michigan, he said softly, "You're holding on to something heavy." His words unlocked me, and I finally shared the years of sacrifice, the betrayal that forced me to walk away from my family. Dylan listened quietly, his hand wrapped around mine, and for the first time I felt safe enough to reveal my wounds. What we built grew slowly, founded on respect and steadiness, so unlike the chaos I'd left behind. But healing wasn't only about moving ahead. It meant revisiting the past. A colleague suggested I see Dr. Robert King, a therapist, and in his calm office, I unraveled the guilt of cutting off money, the sting of being dismissed, and the grief of losing my family. "Your worth isn't tied to their approval," Dr. King told me gently yet firmly. He gave me tools, journaling, reflection, to remember my strengths and piece myself back together. One day I wrote about the teenager who built her first app at 16, who juggled 2 jobs through college, who quietly supported her family without recognition. That girl deserved love, not only from others but from me. The hardest lesson was learning self-love. For years I had measured my value by how much I could give, by how well I could prove myself to my parents. Dr. King helped me see that boundaries weren't selfish, they were survival. I began with small steps, turning down extra work shifts, keeping evenings for myself. I signed up for pottery classes, molding crooked bowls with my own hands, each one teaching me to accept imperfection. Jogging along the lake became my ritual, the steady beat of my feet reminding me I was enough as I was. Sometimes late at night I thought about my family. I pictured my parents downsizing to a smaller place, Chelsea struggling to sell her belongings, Seth maybe learning to listen for once. But the thoughts no longer consumed me. I had shown them proof, spoken the truth, and they chose their own version of the story. Letting go didn't mean I had stopped caring. It meant I refused to let their decisions define my life. The $4,000 I used to send every month now fueled my savings, my future, my dreams. A foundation for the life I was finally creating.